Really pleased to welcome to the show Linsey Willis. She's written a very powerful book that you need to hear about, you need to get, and you need to spread around. And I'm so serious about this. I talk about mental health so often. I mean, every day on every show I do, everything that we see, where it leads, what can we do to help the people, what are we doing as a nation, all of that. And her story is so personal. Be there and check out the subtitle, My Lived Experience with My Sister's Bipolar Disorder. And in this book, letters that her sister wrote when she was high, meaning high on what was happening to her, manic, whatever, or when it was normalish, right? And the book is so beautiful. The cover totally portrays that, and we're going to talk about that. And you can see Linsey there, so I don't want to take up all the space. Linsey, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
So first of all, let's talk about Betsy. Betsy is your sister. She was diagnosed at what, 21 with bipolar?
Yes, approximately that age, yes.
And what was that like? What do you remember, conversations with your parents or anything that happened around Betsy getting that news?
Well, we always knew that she demonstrated kind of bizarre behavior, like bringing books to the beach, changing clothes all the time, just being manic, going, and then could get really nasty. And then she overdosed on Quaaludes, and that's when they diagnosed her. But she was also using drugs back in the 70s, and I think she was smoking pot and doing, those types of things, and to sedate her mania. And she didn't, know what it was. So when it helped, pot sedates you. So she was doing all these things, and then when she was diagnosed with bipolar, it was that's why she's up and down all the time. That's why she's manic or depressed or demonstrating really bizarre behavior.
Yeah, so so tough for a family to deal with that. And when your parents were alive, they were primarily dealing with it, and of course you were helping too as well. And you talk about all of this in your book. Tell us some of the stories.
Well, my sister got caught shoplifting, and that was but that was before she was diagnosed. And kleptomania is one of the characteristics of someone with bipolar. So my father had to deal with that and keep it out of the paper. My sister could be very, very nasty and mean. She was very abusive and mean to me when I was growing up. And people say, how could you have taken care of her for so many years? Because you forgive. You love somebody. You're not going to just dump them, throw them on a heap of garbage. But she was very mean to me. That was part of, I guess, her personality. But also when she would get manic or depressed, she would take it out on me. But we didn't know what it was. So before she was diagnosed, when she was hanging out with different guys and getting stoned, I think that was because she was trying to sedate herself. Because she was always going. She was a straight A student. She could just do anything. She was full of energy. She could do anything.
Wow, how tough for everybody to deal with that. Like you said, straight A student, but then all these other things that held her down, that held her back. And at the time, especially when she was diagnosed, people didn't really talk about it, did they?
No, you hide it in a closet. My parents hid it in a closet until until 1988. Then when they moved to Florida and retired, 87, 88 to Ormond Beach, they finally let the neighbors, when Betsy was living with them, that, why is your daughter living at home? They finally told people. They never told anybody all those years. Told nobody about their daughter, because she was living a fairly normal life, because it was hidden in the closet.
Right. And so obviously you've dealt with this your whole life. And from afar, what was it like for you in the beginning in dealing with that?
Well, I was living my own life. She was living her own life. And we thought, well, she's on this mild tranquilizer and lithium. She'll do okay. She finished her master's degree, but then it all fell apart. when she could no longer take lithium. And that was the miracle drug. It's like a salt. And then from there on in, it all just was up and down, and she spent her whole rest of her life in and out of hospitals, in and out of apartments, going through 3 marriages, getting evicted. It just was a terrible story. And she was arrested. One time was in jail for 6 months. It was just some terrible, terrible stories that we dealt with, and every time we dealt with it, we were on the phone with her, or I was on the phone with her. It was just like to take a deep breath and just get through the day, and what else is going to happen now. And
yes.
But she was never on the street. That was the beauty. We always promised that my daughter, my sister, is not going to live on the streets. We're going to help take care of her.
Yeah. What made you decide you were going to write Be There?
My sister started, my mother and I thought maybe Betsy should start writing a story of her life, because she was living at their house in Ormond Beach, and about 88, 89, and we said, why don't you, that was about the point when she could no longer work anymore. My mother got her on Social Security disability. She worked in psychiatric social work, believe it or not. She just couldn't do it anymore. So my mother and I suggested that she start writing about her story, about her life, and she did, and that's the first couple pages of the book. And she started writing, but she never finished. So I said, well, I'm going to finish the book. I'm going to write about her. So because it affected me. It affected me my whole life. It still affects me today. Yeah. So I wrote the book, put it down for 20 years, picked it up again and finished it. My parents read the first draft and they said, this book will get published one day. It's better than the book we read called My Sister's Keeper. So I had to get her story out there, and I wanted people to know about it. And then once it was published, I said, oh my God, now what am I going to do? And I came up with another plan, and I said, no, I want to go get big so it can give money to help people.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But with the book, what's so unique is the way you lay it out, because you have letters that she wrote that you referenced.
Yes, and well, as I'm writing and thinking of all this, and I redid the table of contents, I had all these thought processes and creative ideas, and I said, wait a second, you've got letters your sister wrote you from many, many years ago, all her life. You kept them. Why did I keep them? I said, someday I could use these. Tons of family pictures that I scanned, because I keep things. And I said, I got to put this in the book. And then family archives. My great-grandmother was bipolar, but they didn't know that then. And there's a picture of her in there, and there's letters that she wrote. So there's family archives, and there's a genetic link. And so I got to put all this in the book. I got to put the letters in the book, because the letters validate part of what I'm writing. So people could read the book and they say, oh, so what? This person could be making this up. No, I'm not making it up. Here's the letter she wrote me.
Right. And the letters are really sad. I mean, the letters really show what it was like to live in her head, don't they?
Very sad. And she was a good writer, and she wrote some really good letters that were like with poetry, and she wrote things at the beginning of the book where she gave advice to me. And then I wrote the letter to my sister when she died. It was in the beginning of the book. I wrote a letter to her, because I felt that I owed that to her, but she was a good writer, and she could have had a wonderful life.
Right, but there was just no definitive cure for what I call mental disease. We say mental illness, but mental disease. It's just so different when someone's an alcoholic and they go to AA, when someone's dealing with something else that they're dealing with terrible things, cancer, etc. There's just a different reaction from the world, isn't there, to when you say the blanket mental illness?
Yeah, because people say, oh God, stay away from that person, and and it's like, not in my backyard, and that person is so bizarre, and you see people walking on city streets and they kind of walk away from the piece of the person laying in the street, or New York City, see these people. A lot of those people are mentally ill, and they're walking in the city streets, and they're, I go to New York about 3-5 times a year, and they're walking around, they're mentally ill, they're talking to themselves, they're dressed weird, and people just kind of walk by them and get away from them, move as far away from the curb as you can get away from them. And a lot of them don't like living, they're used to living on the streets. But if they had somewhere decent that they all could go to and live, maybe they wouldn't all be on the streets.
Yeah, such a good point.
I mean, God forbid it's an embarrassment. We don't want those people we don't want those people in our neighborhood on the street. But you can't remove them from the street. I don't think that's allowed. But you have to allow them to be out on the sidewalk like everybody else is.
Right, exactly. The 4 C's, you talk about the 4 C's in your book, so important. Talk about that.
Well, okay, let me go to the section of the book. We have the 4 C's, page 172. 4 C's. You cannot cure it, you didn't cause it, you cannot control it, and you must cope with it. I added the 4th C. You must cope with it. You really have no choice. The only way you don't cope with it is to wash your hands of the person completely and have absolutely nothing to do with them. I have met people in my life who have said they have, oh, yeah, brother and sister, oh yeah, well, he's schizophrenic or he's bipolar. How's he doing? I have no idea. We have nothing to do with him. So you must cope with it. To have nothing to do with a person unless they've threatened your life, that's one thing. And but to not be able to cope with it and to just discard that person is very cruel.
Yeah.
So you can't cure it, so you got to do whatever you can to realize that you didn't cause it, you can't cure it, you can't control it, and to cope with it, you can come up with coping strategies for helping that person. But it's not your fault. You're not the cause of their problems, even though they try to blame you. My sister tried to blame me for her behavior. No, I understand. I didn't cause you to be manic. I didn't cause you to do this. But she used to throw it in my face like I'm the one that did it. No, I didn't cause you to do this.
Right. And that helps the caregiver because there's the other side of it. And that's the other part of the book. You talking about walking in your shoes and dealing with someone you love, your sister, and not turning your back. Like you said, some people have said they do, like, oh no, I have no idea how they're doing, but it takes the toll on you.
Oh, and yeah, it took, a toll on me my whole life, but I note in the book ways that I cope. One of the ways that I dealt with my life my whole life is running. I used to be a marathon runner. My deceased husband, I ran marathons into triathlons. So that kicks in the endorphins. And Betsy exercised a lot too. So she was always a good exerciser to the best of her ability. And that helps, sedate you a little bit and calms you. It's like a drug. Exercise is like a drug. So it can mellow you out a little bit. Right. So that was a coping mechanism I've had my whole life, exercising.
Yeah. I mentioned the book, at the top, and what a great cover it is. It's a woman on the cover who's Betsy, and you see this wonderful side of her face. It's just amazing. It's beautiful flowers, all of that. And then the other that is much darker. How'd you come up with that concept?
Well, Sue Miller came up with it. Sue's the one, I just gave her a picture of Betsy. The picture's in the book. And here's a picture of Betsy. Why don't you take her face and paint? And Sue came up with this. So the dark side, the spiders and the snake and the terrible things and burned trees, that's pretty bad. And Betsy called it the black hole. Betsy's black hole was so deep, that's when you think about committing suicide. So it's all black. Sue thought, I didn't tell Sue, Sue did that all herself. All the black, you look at it and say, that is awful. Just imagine feeling that way. The tears and the snake and the crow. When they're depressed, they are really, really depressed.
Yeah, absolutely. When people read Be There, what do you hope they take away?
Well, they take away that empathy, compassion. That's why these people are the way they are. Oh, I understand why these people do this. Look at all the characteristics of the bipolar person. If I can help out in a community center or assisted living facility, maybe I will. Oh my God, I've got friends that I think have problems. Maybe I can help them. And then also, if you're a family member, you can take away ideas on how to cope with it. And, heal yourself. The chapter's on healing, how you can heal yourself.
Yeah. Wow. And I think that is so important. You can get Be There, of course, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever great books are sold. my lived experience with my sister's bipolar disorder. And you are doing something to pay it back. You want to make this movement even bigger. Tell us about that, where you're going to do book signings and combine that with wine and raising awareness and money.
Well, the first one is August 19th in Boca Raton, and it's going to be a wine tasting with Wines for Humanity, who I've partnered with, and they're going to, be at all wine tastings. And then we're going to do drawings. We're going to give away baskets of, you get, you buy raffle tickets, you can get the free wine, of course, but you can get, the basket will contain my book, 2 bottles of the Reserve label wine with the cover of the book on the label of the wine, a box of chocolate, a wine tote with Betsy Craig Foundation on it. And the more money I raise from these events, as well as book sales, that money will go into the foundation, and that money will be distributed to, my community first through my Rotary Club, Falk Center for Counseling. And then if it gets bigger, give it to National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, donate to other charities. And I want it to go worldwide. Like I said, it's already in the Middle East. So people I know that have bought it already. So, and it's because we need to, how can you help these people without money? Because nobody wants their taxes raised to pay for this.
Right.
And mental health is at the bottom of the list, right? Right? And health insurance is, not 47 million people that weren't insured. Well, how do you pay for all these services?
Exactly. Yes.
The government budgets are who pays for this?
Right. Right.
You pay for it through philanthropic giving.
Exactly. So important. I encourage
people for the rest of my life. This is part of the rest of my life's mission.
Yeah. Yeah, such an important mission that I think so many of us should and could relate to too. Linsey Willis, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on your show.